Hello everyone, myself Dr. Hemakumar. In this session, I will be explaining about functions with default arguments, functions overloading and friend function. Default arguments. Definition. Default arguments allow functions to be called with fewer arguments than defined. If arguments are not provided, default values are used. Definition. Parameters with default values that are used if no value is provided during function call. Purpose is simplify function calls and enhance flexibility by providing default values for one or more functional parameters. General syntax is like that. We have to write the return type, then the function name. Inside that function, we have to write the type parameter 1 equal to default value, comma type parameter 2 uh, equal to default value, etc. How many parameters you require, you can write. While providing the parameters, you have to assign the values also. Those values are considered as a default values. Open bracket and function of a body you have to write and close the bracket. For example, we have written like this: void greet open bracket std string name equal to guest, close the bracket, open flower bracket, that is std cout uh, hello name std end. So like this, name, if you give the pass the parameter name while calling the function, it will accept. If you did not provide the parameter for that uh, greet the function, it will take that guest as a uh, as an input. Another example, integer add int a comma int b equal to 5, return a plus b. uh, in this example, b is having a default value of 5. If you had provided the value of for the b, then it takes the default value. For a, you have to assign the value while calling the add function. Rules for default arguments. Positioning. Default argument must be specified from right to left. Once a parameter has a default value, all parameters to its right must also have default values. Declaration. Default value should be given in the function declaration, not in the definition. Default value should be given in a function declaration, not in the definition. Overloading. If a function is overloaded, the default argument must be consistent to avoid the ambiguity. Benefits of default arguments. Simplify function calls, reduce the need for multiple overloaded functions for similar tasks. Enhance flexibility, allow functions to be called with varying numbers of arguments. Improve code maintainability, reduce the redundancy in function definition. Limitation and consideration. Ambiguity. Be caution of the ambiguity in the function overloading with default arguments. Readability. Excessive use of the default argument can reduce the code reusability and make maintenance harder. Consistency default. Ensure the default values must make sense and are consistent across different usage of the functions. Overloading functions. Definition of the overloading functions. Function overloading allows multiple functions to have the same name but different parameter list. It is different number of numbers or types of parameters. Purpose is this: enable defining multiple behavior for a function name based on input parameter, enhancing code reusability and usability. For example, integer multiply or integer a comma integer b, open bracket, return a into b. So here multiply function is called within a return type of integer and the argumenting accepting as an input a and b. In the same name, another function is called double multiply, uh, open bracket, double a comma double b, open flower bracket, begin, return a into b, close that bracket. Here again the multiply, the same name is used but with a different data type. That is a return type is a double, and accepting the parameters of A and B is a double type of data type. Rules of function overloading. Different parameters. Functions must differ in numbers or types of parameters. Some same function name, the function says the same name but must be distinguished by their parameter list. Return type. Return type alone is not sufficient for function overloading. The parameter must differ. Example program we are writing: hash include iostream.h integer add int a comma int b return a plus b. Again the overloading the function integer a int a comma int b comma int c. So return a plus b plus c. Both the function names are add, but the first add is having in a two parameters, and the second add is a three parameters. That three parameters is called as the overloading function to add three integers. Then we will start the void main. See out sum of 5 and 3, add 5 comma 3. That runs the first uh, program, first function. Again you output the cout sum of 5 comma 3 and 2, add 5 comma 3 comma 2 end line, close the main function. This second add as a 3 parameter, so it automatically run the overloaded function of a add. Special cases in function overloading. Default argument. Functions with default argument can sometimes cause ambiguity in overloading. Void print a print open bracket integer a comma integer b equal to 10 function with a default argument. Function templates. Overloading with template can lead to complex scenarios. Ambiguity is that overloaded function must be clear and unambiguous to avoid the confusion. Benefits of function overloading. It enhances the readability, code reusability, and flexibility. That enhanced readability means allows using the same function name for similar operations, making code easy to understand. Code reusability is that avoid the need for multiple function names that perform similar tasks. Flexibility is that provide the flexibility in function definition and usage based on different parameters, types, and counts. Limitation of function overloading. Ambiguity and complexity. Ambiguity means it can lead to ambiguity if not carefully managed, especially with default arguments or similar parameter list. Complexity. Overloading can add complexity to the code base if used excessively or incorrectly. Friend functions. The private members cannot be accessed from outside the class. That is, a non-member function cannot have an access to the private data of a class. In C++, a non-member function can access a private by making the function friendly to a class. Definition is that a friend function is a function which is declared within a class and is defined outside the class. If it does not require any scope resolution operator for the defining, it can access the private members of a class. It is declared by using a keyword friend. A friend function possesses certain special characters. It is not in the scope of the class to have which it has been declared as a friend. Since it is not in the scope of the class, it cannot be called using the object of that class. It can be invoked like a normal function without the help of any object. Unlike member function, it cannot access the member names directly and has to use an object name and dot membership operator with each member name. It can be declared either in a public or a private part of a class without affecting its meaning. Usually it has the object as arguments. Here is a demo program for the friend function. Carefully observe this slide. Class sample, open the bracket, integer x comma y, public sample integer a comma integer b, friend integer sum of sample s. So sample is a class which has a x and y are the two private data types, and its member functions are sample. The same function is called. Inside that, two parameter is accepting integer a comma integer b, and there is also in the sample there is a friend function integer sum, a sum of sample s. Then the sample scope resolution sample of integer a comma integer b, open bracket, x equal to a, y equal to b, close the bracket. Integer sum sample s, you open the bracket, integer sum is equal to s dot x plus s dot y, return 0. So void name, void main, open the bracket, sample object 2 comma 3 integer res is equal to sum of object. Cout sum is equal to res, end line, close the function, main function. Here the sum is a friend function which is calling the sample class and passing the parameter as a class itself in a function, and the data types which are available in a sample class that are being called using a s dot x, because s is an object of that class. So s dot x plus s dot y are calling that member function, member datas, which cannot be called in a sum. It can be called here because of this friend function. Carefully observe this slide. In this slide, we are writing a program in a C++ to add complex numbers using friend function. This is written is like that: hash include iostream.h class complex open bracket float real comma image, public complex, again there complex float x comma float y, friend complex, add complex, add underscore complex, open bracket, parameter is passed as a complex c1 comma complex c2, close the class. Outside the class, you are writing the function complex scope resolution complex, open bracket, real equal to image equal to 0. This is a declaration initialization of the real and image as a 0. Then complex scope resolution complex of float x comma float y, open bracket, real equal to x, image equal to y. Then complex, add complex c1 comma complex c2, open bracket, complex t. So t is an object of a complex. T dot real equal to c1 dot real plus c2 dot real. T dot image equal to c1 dot image plus c2 dot image, return t. So you are writing the complex as a an object as a return, and wide complex display, open bracket, if image less than 0, image equal to image minus image, cout real and minus I image, else count real plus I image, close that complex display function. Void main, open bracket, complex object 1 2 comma 3, complex object 2 of minus 4 comma minus 6. So object 1 is passing the parameter 2 comma 3, object 2 is passing minus 4 and minus 6, and complex object 3 is equal to add complex object 1 comma object 2, object 3 dot display. So this is the sample program of calling a friend using a friend function. We are adding a two complex numbers. Friend class. A class can also be declared to be a friend of some other class. When we create a friend class, then all member functions of the friend class also become the friend of other class. This requires the condition that the friend becoming class must be first declared or defined, the forward declaration. Hash include iostream.h class sample1, open bracket public friend class sample2 integer a comma b void get data of 1 open bracket cout enter a and b values in class sample1. So cin a and b are the red, close the get data 1. Then void display 1 open bracket cout a and cout b, close the void and close the class function. Here the class sample is containing the two functions, member functions, that is void get data 1 and display, and it is also have a class as a friend function as a sample 2. In class sample2 open bracket public integer c comma d comma sum sample1 as an object 1 void get data 2. So open bracket object 1 dot get data 1 cout enter c and d values in class sample2. C and d are the input parameters, close the bracket of the void get and again call the void sum2. So open the bracket sum is equal to object 1 dot a plus object 1 dot b plus c plus d. So this will be summing the value of a and b and c and d. So four parameters data will be summed here. Of the class 2 the friend functions. So void display of 2 open bracket cout a object 1 dot a cout b is equal to object 1 dot b cout c and cout d and cout sum will be displayed. So in this display 2 we are displaying the a variable a, value of the variable a, variable value of the variable b and value of the c and value of d, and finally the sum is be displayed, and close the class and we start the void main. So sum1 sample1 sum s1, s1 is an object of the sample1, s1 dot get data and s1 dot display of 1 sample2 s2, s2 is a object of sample2, s2 dot get data and s2 dot sum of 2 and s2 dot display. So close the main function. For this program output will be run like this: enter a and b value in a class 1, that is you can give the data. I have given 1 and 2, output will be displayed a equal to 1 b equal to 2, and then enter a and b value in a class sample 1, that is 1 2 3 4, and enter c and d value in a class sample a is equal to 1 b equal to 2 c is equal to 3 d equal to 4 and sum is equal to 10, that is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 will become a 10. So like this it will be work. Thank you.